Now we're going to talk about strings versus numbers. These are two different types of data types that we can use in JavaScript to help us as we code. So strings are basically words. Numbers have two different types of data types, actually. So one are floats and the other is integers. Integers are whole numbers. Floats are numbers with decimals. It's very important to remember the difference between a string and an integer. And just because something looks like an integer doesn't mean it is an integer. So the first thing to recognize is that if we type in 2 plus 3 into our JavaScript console in the Google Inspector tool, it'll return the number 5. However, if we put the 2 in quotations and then add 3 in quotations, instead of returning 5, the JavaScript will actually return 2, 3 in quotations. This is because when the number is in quotations, it's treated as a string, which is a word. So when you put the plus sign between two words, it concatenates them or combines them. So if we have the 2 and the 3 in quotations, it treats it as two different words that are being combined. So that gives us 2, 3 in quotations, versus if we just have the numbers 2 plus 3, they're treated as integers or floats, and that will then return a number, which is either going to be an integer or a float. So this is important to remember because a lot of times when we get errors in our code, it's because we are expecting a number, either an integer or a float, and we're actually getting a string. So one helpful function to use to alleviate some of these problems is the parse int function. So when we ask the user for an input, it pretty much always returns it as a string. So what we do is we get the input from the user, and then we use the parse int function to convert the string into an integer. There's also other types of parse functions to convert a string into other things, such as a float. But for now, we're just going to learn the parse int method, and this will allow us to turn user input that's a string into an integer.